Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Variety's Virtual TV Fest, the nominees. We're talking about comedy here. I'm Variety Deputy TV Editor Michael Schneider, and let's meet our panelists right now. First up, he's a director, showrunner, and executive producer of Blackish, Courtney Lilly. We've got the co-executive producer and actor from Cobra Kai as Johnny Lawrence. It's William Zabka. She's nominated as a supporting actress in a comedy as Megan Briscoe for The Flight Attendant, Rosie Perez. Also nominated as supporting actress, she plays Ava on Hacks, Hannah Einbinder. He's nominated as supporting actor in a comedy as Martin Schneider on The Kaminsky Method, Paul Reiser. She is executive producer of comedy nominated Pen 15, Debbie Liebling. And she is supporting actress nominated as Rebecca on Ted Lasso, Hannah Waddingham. Welcome, welcome.
I think we're out of time, Mike. I should do it.
You all deserved even longer intros, but we will jump to the chase now because all of you have, I mean, you must be so proud of these shows. These shows are so unique. And as Hannah Einbinder was saying earlier, these comedies sort of have helped us bring us through a rather rough year. And it's so great to celebrate all of these shows and see you all in person. I want to go back to the start, your first impressions when all of you sort of joined all of these shows. William, I want to start with you, since obviously you've been answering this question now for the past several years. How did this happen? When they first came to you and said, we're bringing the gang back together, we're going to revisit the Karate Kid world, but we're going to give it even more depth and structure and really play with the character of Johnny Lawrence. What was your first reaction, and how did you sort of adjust to the idea of revisiting Johnny after all these years?
Well, it was as much who was pitching it as the idea. Josh Heald, John Horowitz, and Hayden Schlossberg, the creators of the show, emailed me out of the blue, took me to a Mexican restaurant. I had no idea what they were going to pitch me, and then they dropped Johnny Lawrence in my lap, who's been put aside for some 30 years. They had Columbia behind it, Sony behind it. Everybody had signed off, and then they explained how they were going to dive deep into Johnny Lawrence through his eyes, where he's been over these 35 years. I was concerned about it, the tone of it. Was it going to be too funny? Is it going to have heart? And that I don't end up at some kind of provincial crane kick at the end of the whole thing, where I become really cemented in as the biggest asshole of all time. So I wanted him to have an arc, a redemption, heart, all those things. And they assured me that he would. And I think one of the biggest things in the pitch was that if Karate Kid didn't exist, this show could exist, and we could call it Bad Sensei, like Bad Santa. And when they pitched it that way, I kind of understood where they were going with it. So it was kind of a toe-in thing for me, having Johnny Lawrence come back into it was like an old girlfriend sitting across from me in a way, trying to get back together. And I was very reluctant, and I took it hesitantly, but the guys did it right. Ralph came in after that, and we kind of walked it together through all the pitches and all the development. And we kind of stuck the landing in the first season. And it was a slow burn, but it's been awesome. It's been awesome to bring this guy back out. And now he's not the same guy he was 30 years ago. He's a man. Like I've had 30 years of life and love and heartbreak and loss and all those things that I can bring into this character and give him some real depth. And that's, as an actor, that's the most fulfilling part of it. The fact that it's tied to Karate Kid and all the nostalgia and all that is the cherry on top for me.
Yeah. No, I'm sure for a lot of folks, and a lot of you have sort of either been a part of reboots or have thought about reboots, and Paul, including you, sort of there is that, do I want to revisit this? Is there still something to say? And then it must have been so comforting in a way also to sort of come back and maybe say things that you weren't able to say back in the day. So, Rosie, let's talk about you, because this show, Flight Attendant, is such a fun cat and mouse game. There's so many opportunities for your character, especially I think in season 2, which we'll talk about in a bit, to really sort of jump into some of the mysteries of what she's been up to. But what were your first impressions when you first read the script and were approached about joining this show?
Everybody knows now I was so stupid to turn it down first. And because I don't like flying. But it was a real challenge, and it was really just a gift, really, because there was only one line to describe Megan, and all they said to me was she has a big secret, and they wouldn't tell me the secret, and that's hard to play. And so basically, I had to come up with a character and just develop it, and along with the executive producers. And working on this show was so different in the sense that I had so much support. The executive producers, the writers, everybody was just so fantastic. Kaylee was amazing. And, you know, any idea, they were like, okay, let's explore it. And so it was really, for an actor, I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but that's amazing. You know, it's amazing to walk into a situation like that. And all that said, it was also terrifying because it's now I had to like put up or shut up. and you know, but I was in good hands, and it was really nice to really try something different. And we didn't know if the show was going to be a hit or not because HBO Max was so new. And you know, even Kaylee, you know, was going, oh no. But then when COVID happened, she goes, oh, this is good. Everyone's going to stay home. They're going to watch. And so I don't know if I answered your question. I'm nervous. I love everybody that's on this thing. I swear to God, I'm so nervous. I can't stand it. And man, and the Karate Kid reboot, I'm a fight fan. I'm telling you. I mean, you kick ass. No pun intended. I'm serious. It's just... And Paul Reiser, talk about an icon, and just everybody. And Hannah, I love you and Ted Lasso. I know I'm not supposed to do this, but this is great. This is
I'm so, can I just say I'm so glad you said that, because I've been quietly trying to keep my shit together, fangirling like a lunatic.
Yeah, what a great group, all of you. Like, I love that you're all fans of each other as well.
May I say what I love most?
Yes, Paul.
Rosie Perez talks exactly like Rosie Perez. That makes me so happy.
Right?
Oh, I was afraid it was suddenly going to come out, you know, like, you know, the Duchess of Windsor or something. Like, oh, that's what, oh, I love this.
Right. I mean,
Big fan.
we've been watching so many of you for so long. It's just so fun to see you all interact with each other too. And Rosie, at least you didn't have to actually shoot any flight attendant on a plane, like in the sky, right? So you're okay there. And you were in good hands with Kaylee as an executive producer. You know, as an actor, she also sort of, I'm sure, you know, knew a little more of sort of how to make you feel comfortable and really, you know, enjoy the process. So I'm sure that was great as well.
It was great as well. And I think it's that we were both extremely excited and nervous, and that we both were at a point in our careers that we could admit that to one another. And that was a comfort as well, and an asset. And so she was amazing. She really was. And she has a great work ethic, and I love that. I like to work hard, you know, so it was good.
And so Paul Reiser, and I've asked you this before, but you know, the idea of coming on Kaminsky and they say, okay, we want you on, but we want you bald. We want you with a gray ponytail. And we're not going to be sure at first if we like this guy or not, or if, you know, if he's good for, you know, Sandy's daughter. You know, what were some of your thoughts in joining Kaminsky?
My first thought was, they said, we want you bald and 20 pounds heavier. I said, just wait 3 months, because we're heading there. Just be patient, and I'll save you some money. But that was actually all, Chuck had it all from the beginning. He said, we're going to pad you, and then the ponytail was the genius stroke, which was like, does all the acting for you. I didn't have to act. I just look in the mirror and went, oh, this guy, okay. And it was a joy, you know. And as Rosie was saying, when you come in the production, top to bottom is supportive and great at their job, that's just such a joy. You're not swimming upstream. You're just joining the flow. And so in this particular show, Chuck Lorre, there's nobody better or funnier. And you have Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin in the beginning, and this cast and the crew, and everyone just, and you don't have, you know, an episodic TV, and I'm sure you all know this, but you're often, you're busy working on this week's script, and you're going, oh, I hope next week doesn't suck. And you get there, and you're always chasing your tail. And in this new world where you can make 6 shows and you have 18 months to do it, like, oh, this is a piece of cake. And so to show up and scripts are done and they're perfect and everybody's great, you just go, my job is just not to stink up the joint. Just get in there and have fun.
Do your thing. Do your thing. Well, Hannah W., I'm going to go by, it's going to be like grade school, or I'll just.
I was going to say, it's literally like being at school. I love it.
So Hannah W., you must now obviously just be, you know, over the moon with the reaction for Ted Lasso, and you know, so much has been about just the right show at the right time. This is the salve that we needed. It's just, you know, a show that really celebrates goodness in people. When you first looked at the show, when you first started talking to Jason and Bill, and they sort of gave you this pitch of, you know, this is what we want to do. This is the audacious idea we have for Ted Lasso. What were your thoughts?
Well, if you bear in mind that when I first went in for it, I was only sent just the sides of Rebecca. So not even the pilot. I had no idea of the trajectory of Rebecca. I had no idea of the general vibe of the show. So that was quite startling and exciting for me when I could see week on week how it was growing and moving and shifting. But there was something about that first pilot episode, in the scene when she says about what she wants to do to her ex-husband with the rusty splintered cricket bat, that I just thought, this writing is just so clever, because in the moment that you think that she is one thing, you are given the chance to glimpse through the undergrowth, her hurt and her vulnerability, and that if anybody even slightly pressed on her, she'd shatter. And I was so struck by the fact that even though it is a comedy series, there is no stone unturned in terms of seeing people's light and shade across the board. And I think when you have a company of players like we have, where nobody thinks they're more important than anyone else, and that's a hard thing. Like Paul was just saying just now, it doesn't always work like that, but when it does, it's absolute perfect alchemy. And so after that first read through we had, I was just a bit overwhelmed with what I realized I was part of and the privilege of it.
Yeah, yeah. And I bet, Hannah E., maybe you were kind of feeling the same way with Hacks, you know, some more great writing and, you know, this star power, of course, starting with Gene Smart. But I'm sure you sort of had a similar feeling when you sort of first got involved with the show.
Right on. You're right on. I got the sides as well. And when I read Ava's joke about killing herself on Watch What Happens Live, I said, okay, I'm in. You know, I feel that. I'm with you, sister. Yeah. I mean, I was like, truly, I got the sides when my background is in stand-up comedy, and obviously that was like not a thing that we could do at the start of the pandemic. And so I sort of read the character description for a, you know, 25-year-old bisexual out of work comedian, and I said, you know, this speaks to me. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. So it just was, in addition to, you know, the high stakes and the great writing and a lot of the heart, and, you know, that shines through pretty much immediately from the first moments we see Deborah and the Broad City trio, you know, Paul, Lucia, and Jen just being so cool, and their work meaning so much to me already. I just was like, I can't wait to see this show when it comes out. And I'm not in it, but when it comes out, it's going to be my favorite show, you know? So, oh yeah, it was an instant connection, because, you know, like, comedy is a love language. And I feel like it was, there was like a connection just reading it, knowing that they come from sort of like that same background as me, like live performance and stuff like that. So, God, what a gift.
The reason why all of these shows work is that they've got such strong voices, such unique point of views. There's just something to them. And Debbie, you know, when I first heard the idea of Maya and Anna doing Pen 15 and playing 13-year-old versions of themselves, like, genius. Like, but I can't wait to see that. Debbie, talk about that initial pitch when those two first sort of came up with the idea. What were your thoughts, and
Yeah,
how
well,
did you
I
own it
think
with
we
them?
all weren't sure. I think we knew it could work, but we weren't sure if it would work. And I think it was sort of one of those, let's roll the dice on this, because they had done a short that was much more, I think, like a sketch than what the heart and the depth that the show explores. And so there was some skepticism about whether it could be a show, whether it could be ongoing, whether it could be half hour, because it was maybe too much of a shtick. But Hulu, bless them, took a chance, and we wrote a few, got a couple of scripts written, proved that there could be more to it. And Anna and Maya and Sam, I mean, they really have an emotional sense memory of that time in their life that is, it's incredible that they are as in touch with it as they are, and so delicately. But the other thing that was really fun was, as the first season was kind of coming together, every single person on the crew, everybody, we all had middle school stories. People started bringing their journals in. People started just talking about the cringiest, most horrible moments of their lives, and the universality of it was so apparent that we all of us have our stories molded into the show. And I think we were very lucky that we got a chance to try it, because I don't think, we thought it was special and we thought it was cool, but we didn't know it was going to resonate at the level that it did. And that was a really exciting, wonderful thing to see how many people are carrying around that wounded 13-year-old, no matter how old you are. There you go. So, yeah. And I think their willingness to go be more surreal and to go toward, things that aren't traditional. I mean, we just really had this palette that we could put anything in it. And so the nostalgia was sort of what the hook was season 1, but then season 2, it really we got past that and was much more about life and how do you navigate life when you have the maturity of a 12 or 13-year-old.
Right. Which is pretty relatable to all of us even now.
Exactly.
and obviously, speaking of stories that are really personal and really sort of dive into the universality of it as well. Courtney, Blackish has been on the air now since 2014. So go back to the beginning when you were talking to Kenya at the start of this, and sort of the grand plan for Blackish and how it played out, and how it sort of played out maybe even better than you ever expected and resonated even more, or what were sort of those early day feelings and conversations like on your show?
I was lucky because I actually started on the show Labor Day of 2014. So they'd already started this writing episodes in the summer before I got there. And so there's always this nervousness, especially when a show is getting ready to debut. People don't know what to expect. And as an outside observer with no stakes really in it, I was able to see what they had done. I'm like, you guys are fine. Don't worry about this. There's nothing to worry about. Because it's like you had Anthony, you had Lawrence, you had Tracy. It was a solid show. They'd done the work that needed to be done. And I think a lot of shows that come out of the gates and kind of hit their rhythms pretty quickly, there was a chemistry to it. So I was able to kind of see that, and hopefully I was able to calm some nerves and anxieties until we debuted and people were able to get their arms around it and see what we could do. But yeah, I was incredibly lucky because I could just sit back there and say, yeah, you guys are doing all right. Just keep going doing what you're doing, because it was already there.
Yeah. And then, like Debbie was saying, once you sort of establish a show, that gives you a little more license to do some unique things. And obviously Blackish has done so many unique things over the years. The Juneteenth episode, so much that comes to mind that you've been able to play with the form. And that must be sort of nice to be at that point where you sort of have permission to do that.
You know, it's so interesting because, like, again, we're in our last season now, and I was talking about it with my assistant yesterday. I feel very lucky to be where we are. I think, like, we hit the ground running pretty quickly. There was an acceptance of what the show was. I think we knew what we were doing kind of quickly. It fell into place easily. So then we could kind of start to break the form in a way. And by season 2, Kenya wrote his episode about police brutality, hope, and things started to open up, and people kind of expected us to be able to deal with certain issues and things in a way. And I think that's what we're known for a lot, but we also, you know, we're an old school network sitcom. We do 24, 22 episodes a season. So last year we had one where, you know, Dre and Bo got in a foot race. You know, we can just have fun, funny episodes. And I think for me, why I feel so fortunate in this is, like, now we're at a place where I can just kind of sit there and have an idea and say, hey, wouldn't it be funny if this thing happened to this family? Or this is something I'm thinking about, and have incredibly talented people and the support of a studio and a network, and we can make a version of it. And I don't know, like, again, look, this is our last season. I don't know if I'm gonna have that again in my career. I just don't, you know, like, and be able to play it out like that. So for us for me personally, to spend the last 2 years running a show like this, and now this 8th season, to be able to do that. And I think all of us as the cast who's working right now, shooting it, we're all very fortunate, and we're just very grateful to be in this position to kind of do things, again, in a landscape that's incredibly changing, for us to be a network show and just try some stuff, have some fun, and tell stories that we didn't know that necessarily there'd be quite the audience for. It just feels very, very fortunate, you know?
Yeah, to do 22, 24 episodes in this day and age, I think that would give a lot of us a heart attack at this point. That's just.
Can I ask? I'm curious, Courtney.
Yeah.
Do you have, going into this last season, do you have things in your creative bucket list, like, I want to do this episode, I want to do this story, that you've been sitting on? Couldn't do.
There's nothing that we'd really been sitting on. We didn't know that we were going to be. We thought there was a chance season 7 might have been the last season. So we were starting to work toward an end game last year. And now we know we have 13 episodes to move toward a thing. And, like, look, I keep saying, we're not Game of Thrones, we're not Breaking Bad, we're not The Sopranos. We don't have to hit some sort of crescendo. We just really need to give people 13 episodes with this family that they enjoy. But there are some things that we're kind of like, you know, it's like, this is a story about a family who, you know, really started in 2014 in a different world, in a different landscape. It was the end of the Obama presidency, and for Black families that meant one thing, and we've gone through a lot in the last 8 years. And how has this family changed from having young children who were, you know, preteens to now having, you know, 2 kids out of the house? And so I think we're kind of figuring out where this family is and what their next phase of life would look like, and trying to drop as many hints into where that version of the world would be for them as possible. But again, we're also going to see if we can have some more episodes that are like foot races, you know, where at 13, all of a sudden, like Michael Smith, it's interesting. All of a sudden, 13 felt like, it's like, hey, we can do this on our heads. But then all of a sudden you're like, that's not a lot. We need to be very economical, because it goes by really fast. You know, we're going to literally have read our 7th script, table read our 7th script by the end of this month. And that's halfway through the season. So it's you know, it's a challenge. It's interesting for all of us. But we just really want to give people 13 more episodes with a family they hope they've been enjoying, you know.
Yeah, and you've been able to evolve these characters over the years, like you mentioned. You know, change jobs, get promotions. The kids have grown up, so there's a lot to sort of play with there. And you know, some of you are on younger shows, and you're just sort of starting to see the evolution of these characters. I mean, Rosie, you know, your character ended on a cliffhanger at the end of season 1, and she could go in a very different direction season 2, kind of on the lam now. And there's a lot that I'm sure you're kind of looking forward to. You know, is there sort of like, there was a patience in season 1, knowing that things are going to go a little haywire for your character, and what are you sort of excited about in where this might go?
I didn't know where my character was going to go until we started getting on to episode 5. So that was pretty exciting for me. It's what I'm hoping for season 2 is to, when I said I wanted to create Megan in the place where she's at, in the sense of her age as a woman, and I said if she's this age, she's menopausal, let's bring that in. And I really started to explore my own hangups about menopause and my own insecurities and everything like that. And I started looking at some of my friends they'll remain nameless, but they're having midlife crisis because they're not happy where they are. And they're 50 and they're like, what the heck happened? And so that's what I'm hoping for Megan in season 2, where she didn't realize she was having a midlife crisis. And for next season, it's everything kind of blew up in her face. So now she has to kind of face the music and say, what happened? What did I do? And get control of her hormones, and be responsible. But I think the best thing, I don't know exactly what they're going to do with Megan, but I really hope that the main focus for her is not only her own self-growth, but also her trying to correct a lot of mistakes she made with her family, because that's what she took for granted. Was a great husband, a wonderful son, and all her focus was mainly on Megan. Cassie, and making Megan as exciting as Cassie in her own mind. So that's where I want her to come full circle, and I don't want it to be easy for her either.
Yeah, no, I don't think it will be, but that's what's going to make for a fun season 2. William, that kind of sounds a lot like Johnny Lawrence, sort of his journey, and Johnny sort of stopped in 1990 and never really grew beyond that, and suddenly he wakes up and it's 2020, and what does he have to show for himself? And it's been so interesting to watch his evolution. He jumps ahead 2 steps, but then falls back again, makes the same mistakes, trying to grow. He sort of is at this point now where, he wants to atone for some of what he's done. And he's even now going to partner with his old rival to sort of fix some of those things. Such a fun trajectory for Johnny. What's sort of been your take on all that?
Yeah, sure. He's an artifact for sure of the 80s. He's frozen in time in many ways, arrested development from a certain period. What's great about the character that was in The Karate Kid even was his first line in the movie. My first line ever saying anything on screen was, I have 1 year to make it work, and that's what I'm going to do, make it work. And he still never made it work in these 35 years. So he's stuck, but this character was so great to play about as an actor, is here's a great kid, a great soul that was downloaded a program into him called Cobra Kai from a very bad teacher. And it goes against his very nature. So he really has a heart of gold, but everything he knows, his toolbox is very limited. He's aggressive. And he's fighting through that. So he's failing in spite of himself, and he's falling forward constantly, and he's a little blind to all these things. There's something really refreshing also about playing that I lived through. There's this episode where Johnny discovers the internet and what's Wi-Fi and all that. We all lived through that here, I think. So, it's fun to go and play that and put it in today where everything is online, everything's in your face. It's great. It's really refreshing to play somebody from that time, because that time was very simple. And then trying to catch up and progress and move forward. He's in a way his own worst enemy, which is great. I think all of us here, I think what's so great, there's a time like right now. I've been at this since I was in SAG in 1979. I auditioned for White Man Can't Jump, Rosie. Yeah, that's how far back I go. When lightning strikes and you get a great team and a great vision, and very talented writers that write for us as the instruments. It's a very, like Paul was saying, it's a very secure feeling to know that you have this machine around you, and you can literally dive in and live in these moments and not look forward and not look back and exist in that and pour your heart into it. And for me, playing this character, it's been very, very painful, because I would hope that he landed on his feet in a different way. Imagination of who Johnny Lawrence would be today is a lot different than what these guys did. On season 1, there was a scene where I brought it up to all the producers. Johnny wouldn't say this, and I got shot down by the producers, every single EP, all the producers. I was like, wow, I'm the only guy here, and I'm playing the character that isn't seeing this the same. And I went home and I took a shower, and I literally surrendered the character. I said, he's not mine anymore. He's in their hands, and I have to do that. And when you're in great hands, from the writing to the edit room, to the studio and all that support. It's a sweet spot. It's so rare. I mean, it's so great. We're so blessed, really, all of us, to be in this moment of time right here. And I'm just thankful to be a part of all you guys, and thank you for including me in this. But Johnny, it's a great, exciting time to get to do this, you know, for me in my career, to be right here.
I love that they've done with the show is early on they went to the vaults and they found some old footage from the original Karate Kid movie and found different camera angles that showed Johnny in a different light, and that must have been fun also to sort of see the younger version of yourself sort of, you know, in a different way than perhaps people had in the past.
It's a mirror they shine in your, you know, like, remember. But it's great. It's, you know, it took me a long time to watch the Karate Kid. In fact, I just showed my kids, they're 11 and 7. They just saw it last week for the first time. It's taken me a long time to watch that movie and see Johnny as the bad guy. It's like, oh, I get it. I'm objectively get the movie now. Yeah, he was kind of a prick, you know, like, because I lived that character, you know. So it's fun to see. It's fun to see flashes and all the archive footage they put out and all the stuff that John Avildsen had somewhere on the Sony lot, and these producers went through and dug through it, pulled these pieces up, and play into that. Yeah, it's a little weird, you know. You got a clip of yourself from 1984, and then you come back to the screen, you know, when I'm like, what, 35 now, something like that. You know, it's jarring. It's great, you know. It's like so hard, really quick. It's so hard to get, like, I'm so, like, that light's too hard and I look like shit, and, you know, like can I get the bags out? Why, you know, you're so self-conscious, and like I'm like, I see Johnny a different way. Then it comes out and it, you know, it's actually great because it's a character. It's like, it's not you. It's like, it's so great. So I've really surrendered so much to the show, to how he looks, how he feels, all that stuff. And that's, you know,
it's funny. It's so funny.
What I'm saying, you got a ponytail.
Well, no, I was telling somebody asked me, what's it like to, you know, play this guy? I said, it was such a relief to take vanity off the table.
Yeah.
I went, because I'm in wardrobe, I'm going, does this shirt make me look fat? Yes, of course. That's the purpose. Look at you.
It's so freeing, isn't it?
And you just take that away and you go, I don't even need to look in a mirror because I'd rather not know. And you just, and then actually fed the character. It's like, he's oblivious. But as an actor, you're right, you have all those thoughts. Like, can you get the light? You don't need to look good. Forget that.
You can fall asleep in your trailer for hours and come out.
That ship has sailed. The one where you're going to look good. That's gone.
Well, one of my favorite moments of Kaminsky this season is, of course, the scene where your character is on the couch watching Diner, and we see a flash of Paul Reiser in Diner on the screen.
Watching Karate Kid. That's what's crazy. Yeah, that was, but it was so far gone. You know, that's 40 years ago, and I'm playing 10 years older or whatever. So it wasn't even like, well, now I'm confused. It's the same guy. No, they're so not the same. I mean, I was a puppy. I was 7 years old when I made that.
But I did love the meta-ness of it. And it sort of speaks to, I mean, Kaminsky is all about aging and you know, the process of, you know, these characters and sort of, you know, how they're accepting aging and what it means to them.
Yeah, well, that's the fun of that show, is he dives right into what does it feel like to be older and to see your best friend die and so on. But, you know, it's never not a shock when you do the math. You know, we were on the set, and Barry, that was my first job, was Diner. And so I'm watching, and Barry Levinson, that was his first film, Diner. And so we're on the set, and we're talking, and someone said, how long ago? I said, that's 40 years ago. I went, fuck, 40? How, that's, you know, it's like, there's no getting around it. I can do the math, but
when you said the 90s were 30 years ago, I was like, wait, no, someone's got that wrong.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's just, I think we're all stuck back then, if we're honest.
We all look great.
We're stuck back then, is that what you said?
Yeah. In our heads, we're still all 20. At least I am, only 28.
Y'all look great. Y'all look great. Hannah W. Let's talk a little bit about Rebecca, because, you know, speaking of sort of watching that character, when we first meet her, of course, you know, we sort of see her as the villain, you know, the person who is sort of, you know, trying to block Ted Lasso from you know, doing whatever it is he was brought here to do. But then things evolve over time, and that was one of the fun parts of the show, is realizing, oh, Ted Lasso isn't just going for the cliche. This is a show that's trying to do something different. And and now, we're sort of seeing that in season 2 as well. Very different dynamic between Rebecca and Ted, and then of course there's that relationship between Rebecca and Keeley that is, such a fun, strong, female relationship where they're lifting up each other. Sort of talk about that evolution of how we saw Rebecca and your take on the character.
Well, one thing, my biggest thing with her was I kind of had a similar situation to Hannah E. In that thing of, going for the meeting for it and then just thinking, do you know what? This is great. Whoever gets this, they're going to have a fucking great time. So once I'd got over that initial shock of getting the role, I realized how much responsibility I had taking on a role of a woman in her mid-40s, divorcee, who was riddled with bitterness and upset and scars, and trying to not make her come across as this one-dimensional Darth Vader, everyone's wrong character. And so I was kind of aware that I had to bring along her softness and her fragility as well. But I'm finding now the transition from season 1 to season 2, I missed at first the brilliant attrition that they had written between Rebecca and, you say Ted, but in her eyes, it could have been anyone. It was whatever goofball she was bringing over from America to help sabotage that which her ex-husband had so lovingly put together. So there was the attrition with him, there was the attrition with Jeremy Swift's character, Higgins, and to a point, actually, at times there was attrition with Keeley, and it's finding the way of keeping her bristle and her froideur, but letting her enjoy them as her kind of newfound family. That's been the kind of struggle with me, trying to move her on, but still with an acknowledgement of the pain that she feels. And the one thing that I was worried about starting episode 1 of season 2 was I didn't want her, because we're about 5 or 6 months on from the end of her kind of epiphany about the people who she should care about. So going into that, I just thought, okay, well, I hope they haven't made her so well-rounded and ready to be dating and have everything sorted out, sussed out. I love the fact that they've made her absolutely the figurehead and the tigress of that team, and she will absolutely fall on her sword for her boys in that team. But in every other sense, especially with men, she's an absolute hot mess. So I've enjoyed kind of taking that on board, and I do feel the responsibility for women and men of a certain age, all of us who are going through that thing of finding your next partner or where you sit in the mix with all your friends when you're a single person. I've loved taking that on.
Yeah, and Hannah E, there's sort of a similarity in the evolution of Ava and her relationship with Deborah on the show, in that she slowly starts to appreciate and respect Deborah in a way that maybe she didn't in the beginning, and vice versa, Deborah with Ava. But yeah, it's a process, and they're not there yet, and it's going to take a while for them to get there. What's sort of your sense of that evolution and that dynamic, and do you ever want it to get to a fine place, or is there something fun in sort of seeing the tension that comes with that relationship that's sort of a little mentor-mentee, a little mother-daughter, a little friend, but it's still very complicated between these two characters?
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of a mirror. They have a lot of their sort of flaws are coming from a similar place. These are walls that they have both had to put up, for various reasons. And looking at these women, like, especially looking at Ava, it has, it is a challenge to play a flawed character who actively makes bad decisions, immoral decisions, and be in a body like mine, or be in a quote unquote cis female body, because the standards are so much so much higher. You know, you have to really dig deep to, I've been examined a lot of my own internalized misogyny through playing Ava, because I cannot, judge her. Like that was that was such a challenge in and of itself and taught me so much. But that growth between Deborah and Ava, it's not something that I expect to happen overnight, because in the case of, Deborah, this is decades of really, really deep wounds that she's having to kind of see. And she's not doing it in, therapy. She's doing it through this relationship and sort of they see themselves in one another. So, I do hope that we get to a point where they're, maybe it's one step forward, one step back, as opposed to one step forward, 3 to 9 steps back, but it's a really exciting relationship and a really exciting, journey for them.
Yeah, and a lot to look forward to. So let's go around the room now as we sort of end our conversation, and wanted to sort of have you all pick out either a scene, a moment, something that happened on your show this past season that you're proud of, that you think, people should take another look at. Debbie, why don't we start with you? Some fun stuff on Pen 15 this season. I was especially intrigued by the third wheel, the friend who sort of suddenly weasels her way in, because again, that reminded me of moments I had as a teen, and that awkwardness of it all. But what were some of your favorite moments from Pen 15?
Yeah, well, that is everybody has that story when someone gets between you and your best friend, and how the allegiances go. But for me, because the series is really a love story between two best friends, and that sort of that bond that is more important almost than anything in the world, they are each other's lifeline. I think the episode that made me laugh the most and moved me the most was the third episode, where they practice witchcraft, and they are trying to put love spells, and Anna's trying to fix her parents, and they're literally practicing witchcraft to try to make their lives better. And the scene at the end, where the two of them run out because Anna's parents are fighting, and they just run back to the place where this sort of magical tree, and just hold each other and cry and just love each other so completely, even with all of the stuff that you're laughing at. I think that episode to me just really spoke volumes for the friendship and what the show is ultimately about. But there are so many, because the play, I mean, who could argue with that play? And Maya doing her Elizabeth Taylor impression, I mean, it was really, so there's great moments. But I think for me, that represented the love story that the show is about.
Yeah, definitely. The business card that they find that sort of represents the Wiccan idol.
Correct.
Courtney, obviously this year there was a lot to tackle, and Blackish is never shy in sort of tackling some of the issues of our day, in terms of COVID, in terms of police brutality and violence against Blacks. There was a lot to sort of touch on, in addition to a foot race episode. So you had a lot to sort of do this year. What were some of your sort of memorable moments?
It's interesting. There's two. Selfishly, I will say, and I think probably everybody on this panel can agree in a way, last year was so extraordinary because of the pandemic. And as much as we were making television for the world to have something to distract them, very much on the ground, we had, cast, crew, entire teams, production staff of people who were working under extraordinary conditions. We'd never seen anything like that. So for me, the entire season is a testament to the work that our team put together, a team that worked together for 7 years in a really work type of way to trust each other. Because, and again, I don't know how that, again, everybody has their own stories. I was so proud of our team for putting that season together. We were one of the first shows to go back up in August. We didn't know what we were getting into, and we just communicated our way through it. That is the thing I'm most proud of, is that we had a season 7, to be honest, and that we were able to get it done. And people felt like, they were able to provide for their families. They were able to have a distraction. They were able to perform their art and be creative. So like, honestly, that's the top level of things. Everything else is gravy on top of that. And for me personally, there was a tag we did at the end of one of the episodes. I can't even remember what it was called or what it was about necessarily, but Beyonce's song "Me, Myself, and I" is my favorite Beyonce song, and we just had a tag that Michael Spiller, director, shot where Junior and Dre, it's both of their favorite Beyonce song, and they both realize that they're listening to it at the same time and then won't acknowledge each other when they bump into each other in headphones and listen to it. That was just fun. That was one of the things, like, I sit there and I'm like, I don't know if I'll be able to do this again on any other kind of show. And we'd earned that moment to be able to do something that was fun and personal and funny and was interesting. But that was a moment that stood out for me. But really, it was all about the cast and crew and everybody getting through it.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love those moments of joy. Rosie, was there sort of a particular moment that sort of sticks out for you in season 1 of Flight Attendant?
It was episode 8. But to explain that, I have to jump to episode 1, when all the flight attendants are in the galley preparing for takeoff. The director, Susanna Fogel, who was amazing, she said, "Your back is turned to the camera." And I said, "Yeah." She said, "We can't see you." I said, "Yes." And she said, "What?" And I said, "Megan, I want Megan to be invisible, and I want to feel that, so that I'm yearning to be part of the conversation." And I said, because I'm the oldest person here, even though I'm in charge, it seems that Cassie's in charge. So it's kind of like she wants to jump into the conversation as opposed to being part of the conversation. And to my surprise, when I read episode 8, the writers were listening and they incorporated that. And it's the scene in episode 8 where I'm sitting on the bed in the hotel room with Cassie, Kaylee Cuoco's character, and we both finally drop all our pretenses and facades and just show each other who we really are. And the line is, "I'm invisible." And, Cassie says, "No, you're not." And I said, "It's true." Where she has a reckoning of, how she fits into the world and how the world sees her. And even when I was about to do that scene, Kaylee kept going, "Stop it," because like the tears were already coming. And she said, "You're gonna make me crack." And I was like, "Okay, I'm sorry." But I was just, in a weird way, I was so Megan that day. I was so into her, and throughout the whole season, I drove my husband crazy because I was Megan, and that at that point, Megan was able to tell her truth, and not everybody gets to do that in life. And so that's a special moment. So I hope people like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, throughout the season, Cassie's having this big drama, and she's too busy to notice that her friend is struggling. And yeah, great moment. William, there was a lot going on this season.
Oh my gosh. How do you pick a moment? John, see, man, season 3, Johnny is beat up. He's in the bottle. I think halfway through, when he's been teaching this kid for 2.5 seasons. Now the kid is injured as a result of some of his teaching. He feels very responsible, but he's trying to rehabilitate the kid. But he's lost his teeth. He's lost his power. And as he's trying to pull this kid up to stand on his feet, he's now paralyzed and using this hoister to hoist him up in the living room. And then miraculously, he's going to stand up. And in the middle of that moment, they start talking about girls and the relationships, and then Miguel bites at Johnny and says, "You're a pussy. You gave up." And he gives everything back that Johnny gave to Miguel. Miguel gives back to Johnny at that moment, and at the same moment, there's Miguel standing on his feet for the first time. And that was a really awesome moment to play and to watch. And then real quick, though, the very ending, it's accumulation of Johnny and Daniel who bowed in the Karate Kid now coming together, playing that where Johnny and Daniel put their hatchet to the side and their differences and they join sides, having a common enemy now, although they have a long road ahead. That moment was incredible to play, but to watch, I think that was the goosebump moment for me. Watching the show, being surprised how well that played in light of everything that came before that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I love that the Johnny moment where he thinks like the 80s swimsuit model magazine is going to be what gets this kid to stand up if he holds it over him.
Right.
Paul, one of the things about your character, Martin, is once we meet his mom, we realize, wow, this guy is much more like healthy and well balanced than he should be, considering what he had to go through.
Yeah, they teed up Christine Ebersol. At a certain point, I said, there's nobody old enough to actually be this guy's mother. Who are you getting? And they had brilliant, they got Christine Ebersol and they did her makeup, made her 90 or whatever. And she was awfully funny. And I would say to the question that the thing that was most fun for me to play in that whole season was there was a scene, like a 5-page scene with Michael Douglas and myself in a car. And I love those scenes, which there's no staging, there's nothing but actors and words. And in that compressed space, you see, and especially in that scene where I'm asking him for help and he knows exactly what I'm asking, but he doesn't want to say it. And he's the one that poisoned his daughter against me, but I don't understand. And so there are all these cross currents that the audience can see, but I couldn't see. So I love that thing. But there's a moment that to me encapsulates the whole season and the series really, where the very last episode, Michael Douglas's character, who's never, who's given up on his dream to be an actor and is now an acting coach, gets this movie and gets accolades and I had never really seen that played that written before, where you make peace with your life, and then the thing that you wanted for so long and you gave up on comes back, and you go, well, now what? And there's this beautiful moment. He's standing at, early dawn, he's standing on Sunset Boulevard looking at his billboard on the phone with his ex, Kathleen Turner, and she says, "You're looking at the billboard, aren't you?" Yeah, he goes, I don't know what to do with all this. What do I do with that? It comes now. And she says, "Enjoy it." He went, "No, I don't think that's it." Like, I don't know. How do you process that? And I thought it was a beautiful thing because it wasn't really ultimately about actors and getting a job. It was about life and that there are surprises. And pay attention, because you could be well into your 70s and 80s and something comes and makes sense and you go, oh, my life makes sense now. So I thought that was beautiful writing and a beautiful moment.
Yeah, no, definitely a great way to end the show. And Hannah E., you're up.
Yeah, I think the moment that comes to mind is in episode 10, when Ava and Deborah are kind of having an all-out fight. It was so hard to shoot because after episode 7, when Ava and Deborah kissed, the entire relationship, even though that was a dream, the entire relationship to me, like I kind of realized that it was, and I talked to Lucia, our director and creator, about this, and she was like, yeah, like this was kind of like the undertone the entire time. The entire relationship was kind of tracked like a rom-com. Like it really was that thing of, seeing them break up, even if they do, resolve it. Like reading that bit, of reading it at first in the table read and just sobbing and being, mourning this relationship and seeing these two people who are just so hurt and so angry and, just going right back to the place that they were at the first moment they met, just this really combative, sort of toxic, like really brutal place. These people who, and, I'm looking at Jean and I love her and feel close to her. Oh, I'm going, y'all. I just, it was so hard not to just, like they're shooting on Gene and I'm just sobbing because, watching, oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
All of us get it. All of us get it.
It's just you get so close to these people, and
it's true.
Watching them break up and watching them, throw away all of this progress and all of this closeness, these people who only really have each other. It was so brutal. And, that moment was so hard because I'm doing it and then I'm like outside my body going, what are you doing? You can't let this happen right now. So God, it just like still I think about that and just
yeah,
it kills me. Yeah,
it's a stunning moment because it starts, it should be this celebratory moment, and Ava has this gift for her, and Deborah's about to go on stage, and then it just goes south. And you're right, and then it's sort of everything that they've just gone through over 10 episodes. Wow, like you're just back at square one. We'll see you in season 2, everyone.
Yeah.
So, but that's why we can't wait for season 2. Hannah W., bring us home. There are a lot of amazing moments in season 1 of Ted Lasso, including just that, like we said, evolution of Rebecca, and moments, with Ted, outside karaoke. Talk about sort of your favorite moments.
Well, like you say, it's kind of hard for me because, the audience have been taken on such an emotional roller coaster with it themselves, but us in the playing of it, I really, really appreciate Hannah feeling it and it bubbling to the surface, because when you are in the middle of that brilliant writing with somebody standing opposite you, and for me, it's Anthony Head as Rupert. I 100% don't feel like I could have got to where I needed to get to without somebody as brilliant and as gentlemanly in real life as he is. There were 2 moments for me, if you'll indulge me for a second. The first one was when, as a company, as a football team, as it were, we all came together in episode 4, the gala, or gala, as you say. And it was the first time we all also got to hang out around our trailers. And then when you watch it as a piece, the gala, when Rebecca is trying to stand on her own 2 feet for the first time away from Rupert, and you get all the brilliant funny scenes between Nick Mohammed, who I still can't make eye contact with, and I have to just slightly look off one of his ears to get through scenes because my giant mouth gets in the way and just starts laughing, and then I'm in trouble because Rebecca's not meant to really laugh. So there's like all the stuff with him and Brett Goldstein and Ted, of course. And then you have the scene outside the gala when it's the first time you see Rebecca relax to Ted. And the thing that was amazing for me was Jason allowing me in as an actress, saying, can I add a couple of things that will get me where I need to be? And barely knew me, and he listened it through, and as usual kind of stroked the Ted Lasso tash and was like, okay. And I added a couple of things in, and sharing that moment with him, and the first moment when Rupert comes in to the gala and Rebecca is blinded by the spotlight, and it's her ex who has literally reached into her heart and smashed it on the floor. And now the first time she's seeing him is in front of a whole room full of people who expect her to be able to rise above it. So that episode, the peaks and troughs of that. And then, of course, episode 9, when, as you say, Rebecca finally confesses to Ted. And that, for me, was totally at the hands of Anthony Head, who had been wrapped for the day for his coverage. So I was absolutely in the pocket with him, like blinkers with him for all of that. And then they wrapped him because they were going to turn around, basically shooting me on my shoulder. And then I turned around close up and walked down the stairs to confess to Ted. And in that moment, I think Anthony could see my desperation and fear that I wasn't going to be able to get back to that point. And he stayed. He stayed through lunch. He stayed while they went on to other scenes. And when we came back to that scene where I have to turn around, which is so pivotal for Rebecca, he had stayed and was there pouring a load of nasty stuff about Rebecca and Rupert into my ear so that I was in the right place. So that will always mean something to me. And working with him in particular has been the greatest gift that this job's given me. So those two, the episode 4 and EP9.
Can I just say something that I love that story. It's so true what you get back and the generosity of people with you. And in the back of your head, because sometimes we all do this, I just did this. I went, they don't need me for this. And you go, asshole, stay. It's never going to be forgotten. And if you, no matter what you do, people go, I worked with him in 1973 and the bastard went home on my cover. That's all they'll remember. So always stay for their cover, everybody else's coverage. That's if you learn nothing else today.
It's true. It's true.
Right?
It's a basic thing, but bother and be like theatre players, stay and support each other.
Of course. Except for the people for whom I didn't stay. But all of you should absolutely do that.
You better stay now.
I'm not as nice as
That concludes our master class.
there you go. It's so true, but that's almost the most important thing.
Actually, unfortunately, we are out of time, but so great seeing all of you. Congratulations on the Emmy nominations. Best of luck to you in these coming weeks. And again, looking forward to everything you've got coming up, including more seasons of your shows, and Paul, everything you've got coming up as well. Final season of Blackish, more seasons of everyone else. So Debbie, Courtney, both Hannahs, Paul, William, Rosie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Michael Schneider at Variety, and thank you for joining us here at the TV Fest.